My name is Abby Sherlock. I am a second year master's student at the University of Southern California studying interactive media and game design. I'm also getting a graduate business certificate from Marshall in entertainment business. And my focus is mostly on producing and working, my specialization, like working with performers, actors, narrative folks, and audio. Yeah. Totally. So, this goes without saying, but Heirloom would be nothing without my co-creator, Catherine Yu, who's fantastically talented. Heirloom was the project that happened in Richard Lamarchian's second year first semester class, famous production class for the master students. And it was really born of Catherine and I's strengths. So when we were starting the ideation process for the project, it was I think our society in general can focus on what's wrong with people and what they're bad at and doesn't talk enough about what people are naturally gifted at, you know? And so one of our things was like, we're not going to like make ourselves do something that doesn't play up our strengths, you know? And so Catherine comes from a strong like escape room, immersive theater background. I was a theater BA at UC San Diego with a focus in theater and acting. So we were like, okay, we're definitely going to do something story narrative heavy. That was like first off. And then I have a love of audio and have done internships in voiceover. And that's kind of my strength. So we were like, we're going to have good actors and strong narrative, and then the puzzle room, escape room. And that was kind of our basic constraints. And then we were talking about location and places, and it was kind of like, like what's very specific? What do we want? We both were like very interested in retro, but not retro, since the story does take place in the 90s, but also harkens back to events that happened in the 70s and the 80s. And it is set in the rural American South, and I'm originally born and raised in South Carolina, lived there for 17 years. So it takes place there. It's about Southern women, Southern characters, about a family, and a secret that dares to unravel them all. But it was born of kind of a little bit of not my specific upbringing at all, because it's fiction and not at all similar to what I went through, but born of my love of the South and how I miss it and things that make it special. And Catherine was our lead programmer and UX UI designer and co-writer. And then I was our producer, co-writer, and then also like director for actors, casting director. And then I also voice acted in the game. So insourced it. Yeah. Ooh, medium. Oh, I mean, I think streaming has really cool ways of interactivity with people. I think, Legendary I interned at was like movies, and I think just movies are epic, and that's just so cool. And they specialize in like fantasy and sci-fi, which is also super fun. I probably games still at the end of the day. I just think video games as a medium, I think, and I talked about this a little bit in my undergrad thesis, which was about theater and games. I think both are conduits of empathy. I think when you go to a performance, you're seeing these actors, you're seeing the story, and you're getting immersed. And you are there physically, so there's that interaction there, which does not happen in movies, doesn't happen in TV, no shade. And then with games, it's similar though to theater, where you physically have to do something, or else you're just going to start on the title screen and not do anything. And so I think the levels of like participation of the player, of the audience, of whoever is experiencing it are very similar. So I think I think games, and then games also, have technology. And so you have this innovation of technology mixed with, I think, strong storytelling, and there's no other better medium in the world. It was interesting because I was a child actor and I grew up in like very female friendly places. My mom also had really good girlfriends that she went out to eat with every week, and so female friendship was like very, what do you call it? Like it was just, I saw good role models for it at a young age. And then in theater, it was like very strong female led, lots of directors, a lot of creators. And then switching over to games, when I got involved with my esports gaming club in my undergrad, there was like we would be lucky to have like 3 women in a room of like, I don't know, 400 people. And then the numbers got better. That didn't happen overnight. That was conscious effort by a few of us on the team, but it's just hard. And I think when you don't see role models that look like you, and that was one of the toughest things I've said, it was like, I always loved games. It was always a hobby, even when I was younger, but I never knew it was a career really, because I don't really think there was a lot of visibility. And my visibility, and I've met her and she's lovely. Naomi Kyle was one of my the host for IGN for like 10 years. Awesome, cool lady. She was like one of the first people where I was like, hi, oh wow, there's like a person talking about games and they're like a lady. That's so cool. And so that was like one of the first ones. But again, that was rare then. That was like not normal. And I do think, and I think I don't know, it's like the cultural nerd renaissance, I like to call it, with like the Big Bang Theory and Marvel movies. And you've just seen this like pop culture phenomenon of just geek culture that used to, Dungeons and Dragons, another great example of geek culture that used to be like ostracized and was thought as weird, is becoming the mainstream. It used to be the weird stuff and now it's the mainstream. And so I think that's been really cool to see. And then, so for seeing role models was really important for me. And then that was something, it was a challenge. And I mean, comments, like I feel like there's so many comments. All women in games, I think, can talk about times professionally and then personally as a hobby where they've had harassment, doxing, maybe not to this extent, stalkers. Like I've had my share of that. Like it is a scary, it can be scary. And that's why I think because of that, I've been so attracted to programs and initiatives that support marginalized people within the space, because I think it's just you have a place for your support, you have a place for mentoring and mentorship, which is so vital, especially for marginalized folks. There's so many studies that women specifically, if you don't have like a mentor or a sponsor, career growth can plateau eventually after a while. And so having those people in your corner as your champions to help guide you, shield you, teach you is essential. Is one of if I could give like, I guess, any piece of advice for like even younger ladies in the space, it's mentor and menteeship. And it's also an interesting thing. I talked earlier about Emily, sweet Emily. But I also think while you are being like I have a mentor, I can also mentor. So you have the mentee and you can do both at the same time, because there are some aspects in which I'm like, wow, I'm not anything compared to so-and-so. That's a little imposter syndrome talking, but it's like, this person's so cool, I'm not on their level yet. And then there are some aspects where it's like, yeah, I know that rodeo, I can help you out. Totally. I got rejected in undergrad for USC. I'll be completely transparent. And because I auditioned for the theater school and I got waitlisted and then rejected. And so when I was looking at graduate school, I was like, I really need a place, because I felt like I had very good critical theory analysis skills from my time at UC San Diego, but I felt like I needed those technical skills and portfolios. And when I was talking with recruiters, it was interesting because they were like, well, you've done really good writ work and this and this and this, but if you do want to go into game development, you need a portfolio. And for me, it was like, okay, I want to go to a place that has where they'll teach me really good technical skills and I'll have the ability to get a great portfolio. And so when I was looking at around for grad school, it was like NYU, the usual suspects. It was like NYU, USC, even London School of Economics in England. And so I was trying to decide where to go. And I actually got waitlisted for this program, the program I'm in right now. And I was like, crap, because it felt right. It was like USC has like, they're within the cinema school, they have everything. And then I got off the wait list literally, was it in April? And I was like, okay, I felt like it was a message. I was like, okay, I didn't get in, when I was younger. I feel like I'd have to do it for younger me who wanted to come here and be a Trojan. And it was like the game design program also, it just, as someone who had a very like arts and humanities background, I wanted to understand programming. I wanted to understand engines. I wanted to understand what is UI and UX design. I had so much to learn that I felt like I didn't know. And I mean, USC's done all that and more. Yeah, no, I didn't. It's like, yeah, because I wanted to be an actor for like a majority of my life. It started mostly when I mentioned in undergrad, my TESPA club. So my gaming esports club was so welcoming and supporting and lovely to me, and it made me feel like I could be myself, and that is all aspects of myself. You don't have to just be one part of you. You can be an unabashedly fully 100% you, whatever that is. And being around people who love games, and as someone who loves games, it felt right. It was like, oh, and the pieces kept clicked together. And so there was a choice when I was graduating, because I did have some offers for publishing positions at games companies, but not development. And I was like, okay, does this feel right? And then it didn't. And so I was like, all right. So then going to graduate school for me was like a very specific choice to like get into development and production specifically, because I knew that I didn't have the skills yet for that. And I did, and I wanted it. So yeah. I have two parts of my heart. It's like JRPGs, as you can tell from my beautiful Sephiroth right here. JRPGs, love Fire Emblem, love Final Fantasy. Then there's another part of me that's like FPS, because I just think I could play Overwatch for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Not really a project, but I think one of my favorite just things on my resume or things I've done has to be when I was a fellow for Girls Make Games last summer, it's like a girls summer camp that teaches young, like 10 to 14, maybe some 8-year-olds, about coding, game design, and it's set up like summer camp. And so I actually helped with the younger age bracket that they serve. And we didn't really teach games as much as we played games together. And so basically just spending time with that group was just incredible and gave me emotionally so much back, because like I said, I didn't have very few role models growing up in games. And so just for them to see that it's possible, and if they wanted to do this, again, you don't have to do it, but if you want to do it, it is there and it's awesome. And we would love to have your voice, and you would be appreciated, and it just was awesome. And so Girls Make Games, I think they're just incredible work. I am very proud to like have been a part of that. Yeah, I'm really proud of Heirloom. That was just such a cool moment. And then the awards it's gotten and like recognition has been really validating and really just awesome to see, because we put so much. It's a very I mean, the story's about women by women, and we put a lot of our hearts into it, and to see that rewarded, it just feels great. And I hope we tried to make a game that we thought would be impactful for all kinds of people. Specifically, our audience was for people who don't play games, and so like that's been really cool hearing from folks who like typically don't think of games as an artistic medium. They think of like just shooters and violence, which again, I said I love FPS, so like that's also part of it too, but they don't acknowledge the artistic aspects of the medium. And so I think having that kind of experience in game and have it impact people like that is awesome. And then my thesis project, I'm super excited about. I'm in pre-thesis right now, so that won't be until next year, but I am focusing. I'm kind of you're getting the inside scoop. I'm probably going to end up doing a project that has to deal with women in games, specifically competitive esports and streaming. So I'm very stoked for that. Yeah, totally. So it was coined by a professor who, I'm putting this in quotation marks, it's as a harassment simulator. So I did a project in my first year at USC, and Professor Andreas's class, and it was a 360 video of me playing Overwatch, and stitched over it, I found kind of like a pseudo documentary. I found audio clips of women being harassed or attacked verbally. Um, Content warning, I mean, graphic descriptions of violence, very evil stuff being said. And I just played the game, and then the audio, these like comments were like going on as I played. And it was one of the first projects I had done in graduate school where I got a really big reaction from my professors and my classmates. And they were like, this is like, it's horrible, but it's good because it's impactful and it's strong. And so that I was like, okay, maybe there's something here, because there's not really, there's a couple of comps, comparables that I've like, you know, tried to done research on to see like what other people have done in the space that is similar. But there's nothing really like that. So I'm thinking, again, pre-thesis, but for next year, a short harassment simulator that takes the player through the experience of being a woman in games. And then I also, as someone who's worked with streamers before, I think there's a really huge overlap. So I'm going to be doing interviews with folks. I don't want anything to be fabricated, because I think there's an authentic storytelling to this that I think will make it even more powerful, by getting real words that people have heard in games used against them, from, you know, people in the space that I know from previous work, and compile it and then kind of track the journey of what happens to that player slash woman slash character as they go over a, you know, an experience of a game, and the kind of emotional beats that happen as you go. So yeah, I'm thinking probably Mac and PC. So trying to be more accessible, but yeah, it'll be fun. I think you will be a better, well-rounded person when you have hobbies that are not just our one medium, because then you'll have more knowledge about other areas that you could then bring into games to make them more diverse, to make our breadth even bigger of what games could be. Because that's the whole point of, I think games are so revolutionary, because again, innovation and technology is always, always changing. And so the more knowledge you have about other things in the world, then you'll be good. And then you'll have more things to make games about. So that would be one of my, like, my, it's usually my first tip when people ask me for advice. And then my second tip is support. Like I said, mentorship, menteeship is very vital. And there's so many cool orgs within the space. Programs, I mentioned Girls Make Games, you have IGGA Velocity, you have, what was I gonna say? You have you have the Activision Blizzard scholarship. You have these really cool Women in Games International. You have, there's like a ton more, but that's already four. Like just groups that are there to support marginalized people. Seek them out, and then I mean, it's up to you to how active you become. But at the like finding them and then realizing there's resources there to help you grow and support you on your journey is like an awesome, awesome, awesome feeling. So mentorship, orgs, and hobbies summed it up. Those are the three.